Just learning all of this. My staff is educating me on what that all means and trying to get me to do this. So it'll have a pretty wide distribution, I think, from our members. It gives me great pleasure to introduce someone who I got to know a few years ago, and clearly, you know, particularly this week as he launches and the team launches the new stadium, who clearly has been very much in the news. And I want to give you a little bit of a background about David. I'm not going to go through this whole thing, or we'd be here till 10:30 in the morning, another hour or so. But David enters his 13th season in Major League Baseball and 11th as president of the now Miami Marlins. He is one of only 8 current presidents in Major League Baseball who has presided over a World Series champion. And as club president, David oversees, I think, as all of you know, all aspects of the team's day-to-day business operations, including sales, marketing, operations, and personal matters. He also oversaw the construction of the new Marlins ballpark in Miami. And if you want to see the evidence of his handiwork, all you need to do is turn around, because there it is. You know, when they started, David sent me a countdown clock so I could watch day by day, you know, and sort of when the stadium would open. And I said I didn't really need this countdown clock. All I had to do was look out my window, because I could see every day what was going on. And I can tell you, he would wooden ladder straight up. And he said, "You don't have a problem with that, do you?" "Oh, no, of course not." Of course, when I came back, I had to change pants, I think. But the reality of it was a little scary, but it was very, very exciting to watch the stadium. Clearly, David works very closely with the owner and CEO, Jeffrey Loria, on all baseball matters and their corporate strategy. He's also president of the Florida Marlins Community Foundation, which I know he holds very near and dear to his heart. Its focus is on efforts not only in baseball, arts, educational needs of South Florida community. This is a very important fact that I want to do. The foundation distributed well over $1 million to worthy charities in South Florida in 2010, and was, I think, on pace to surpass that in 2011. Among the accomplishments, David was named one of Sports Business Journal's 40 Under 40 for 2 years running in 2003-04. A little bit higher than that now, right? Other highlights, in addition to the 2003 World Series champions, included the Florida Marlins being named South Florida's #1 Film and Entertainment Company of the Year and Baseball Americans Organization of the Year. David was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, raised in New York City, graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, a bachelor's degree in economics. He received his law degree from Benjamin N. Cardozo School of Law in New York City, 1993. He's a member of the New York State Bar. And following law school, David became president and founder of News Travels Fast, first company to deliver the New York Times to Europe on a same-day basis. 1996, he joined Morgan Stanley, the investment bank in New York, a position he resigned in 1999 when he all of a sudden decided that baseball was really in his blood and joined the Montreal Expos as executive vice president. He's worked very hard in that area. I can tell you that David, over the years, and has become a friend. Worked very closely with him. He is, sometimes he can be, as what they say, a worthy adversary, but nonetheless fair and objective. One of the things that I found interesting about this whole thing, and again, whether you've been for or against the stadium or whatever, the fact of the matter is that it is a magnificent facility that will be a great asset here. But the Marlins, what was really exciting to me was that through this whole thing, through all the years that I've known David and talked about this stadium and how to get it funded and all of that, the fact is that many have tried to do this, but they got it done. I mean, there it is, and it's a testimony to their ability to get it done. I was struck by when I saw Dana Fernetti come in, and I started kidding with Dana. I said, "Dana, go get the Marlins file. We have to write another letter to the editor," because we wanted to see this stadium get built. But one of the things he always said is that if we get this stadium, we will use the benefit of this stadium to improve the product on the field. And a lot of people said, "Yeah, sure, right." And I think this year in the off season, we saw evidence that they stuck to their word. So we're very excited heard enough about me and from me. Let me introduce to you the president of the Miami Marlins, David Samson. David. I don't have to do this, but it's all yours.
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. It's very nice to be here. I'm going to stand just a little bit more this way. I'm going to start at the beginning and then go backwards, which is a little different. At about 4:30 in the afternoon, out from behind the wall of the visitors' bullpen came these kids in uniform, and they walked out like they had just appeared literally out of the field of dreams. And they came out with their cell phones. Every single one of them came out like this. They were taking pictures, and they were so happy. And it occurred to me that this is exactly why, for 10 years, we struggled, we worked hard, we got absolutely torched. We learned to understand why Wayne Huizenga and John Henry decided not to do this. And we always kept our blinders on because we said, once we get this done, all the negativity will just disappear. And it's happening already. Forget the sales, forget the new players, forget how crowded it's going to be. The reality is, all of the debate, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the debate because we can certainly have an intellectual conversation about it, but it really has disappeared. And I was watching the game and I was walking around, going from concession stand to concession stand, and I had this amazing chill come over me because it occurred to me that at about 6:30 p.m. we were going to be playing baseball in 40 minutes, and I was walking around, and I found myself within 1 hour, at about 7:30 after the game had started, I had in the past 30 minutes had dinner with Mayor Tomas Regalado and sat and ate chicken fingers with Mayor Carlos Jimenez. The irony of that statement should not be lost on anyone here. Tomas Regalado and Carlos Jimenez were the two single most negative politicians as it related to this project. And they would tell you that. I'm not breaking any news here for Channel 10. I'm not doing anything. Everything that they could say negative, they did. Come to Miami's, they want to make money. They don't come for South Beach, they don't come for the weather, they don't come for the Marlins or sports. They come because they think they can make more money here than anywhere else. It's really quite that simple, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's a fact. We are a capitalistic community, society. We have a great foundation. We give money away to people who are less fortunate than we, but our company, the Miami Marlins, we're here to make money. So we spent years negotiating, and what was really the debate was one overriding political philosophy that permeated not just this community, but it permeates every single community that's ever done anything. Forget a sports arena or sports facility. I'm talking about parks, I'm talking about public transportation, I'm talking museums, I'm talking everything. Everything the government does with its money is always under scrutiny because people say, well, I pay taxes, I work very hard, I pay taxes, I want to say where my tax money is going. And we developed a government that made decisions. Then we have term limits in some cases, or you have the ability to vote people out of office who you're not happy with what they're doing, if they make promises they don't keep, if they are found in hotel rooms, whatever they're found doing, you have the right to change your mind and vote someone else in. All of that is fair and all of that's great. It's a great society in that way. I'm going to talk about the recall in a minute because I'm finally free to talk about it because the ballpark's built. I don't have to hold anything back, not that I ever did, as Frank very well knows. So the politicians have to listen to their constituents because what's happened, not just in Miami, but really everywhere around the country, and I travel everywhere, not just for baseball, I give motivational talks, I do all sorts of things everywhere, and I love traveling. And what I have found is, generally, the people who are running for office around the country really are not the cream of the intellectual crop. And the reason they're not, and this goes, in my opinion, for the media, all of the people who are out to get them, who are shooting darts at them, who are trying to catch them, all of it is very, very exhausting, and it causes politicians to be in a permanent state of re-election mode. Very bizarre, right? But that's the focus of politicians. They get a job, and then they say, I now need to get reelected. So they go out, they fundraise. Do you have any idea how much time politicians spend fundraising? The reason they do that is they want to stay in office. The reason certain laws aren't passed in Congress or there's no cap on real spending, both in the House and the Senate up in Washington, is incumbents have such a great advantage because they have name recognition, they can raise more money, But that doesn't stop people or politicians from raising money. So what does that mean? That means that politicians are focused on raising money, re-election, and they're forced to blow with the wind of constituents. And constituents don't necessarily know every part of every issue. That's not their job. They have other jobs as citizens of this community. So I don't think anyone in this room has the ability to speak completely intellectually on every issue that confronts the local government. And that's not saying we're not the smartest people in Miami. My guess is if you're in this room, we're immediately in the top 1%. But the fact is there's so much that we have to do in our everyday lives because we're all running our businesses and doing our work. The government has its own separate role. And its role is to create. Its role is to generate. And sometimes we get confused by that. So we start chambers of commerce, we have beacon councils, and we have people who are really quasi in the business world, but are trying to explain and make government understand the importance of business development and creation. Parks, public transportation, museums, they are not built for profit. So let's not sugarcoat it, let's just be very clear. All the services that we want in this community are services to help our companies make more money. Because the easier it is for people to come here, the easier it is for tourists or for people to live here, the more commerce, the more dollars, the more revenue, the more profit, the asset appreciation of what you're doing, whether it's a public stock or whatever the case may be. Hey Wayne, how are you? So we were just talking about making money, and we were talking about profit.
Let me help you.
So the confusion that happened during the debate for the ballpark is people weren't really used to someone out front on the ballpark issue actually being completely honest. And that has always been the scouting report of me, and it's been correct. I will be honest to a fault, because there's really no time to play games. As it is, I was completely honest. It took 7 years to get this done. Just start construction. I've been in this community 10 years. And that was not doing all of the stuff that other people do to try to get things done in government. That was me saying, this is what we can do. We can't do more. Let's get a deal together. And all of the other noise that surrounded the debate was noise created really as a diversion. It was noise created to try to see whether or not we were a company that actually meant what we said, that we were going to be in Miami, we were committed to Miami. And that commitment never wavered. Now, it took some turns. The highlight of the stadium process, Frank will agree, I think, is in 2006. The Marlins opened their season against the Houston Astros. We had no deal. I was not getting along with anybody. No one was getting along with me. We had no future. We had no idea what to do. Frank said to relax. I couldn't relax because I had told the owner that we'd have a building open by 2006. We just had to trade away all our players because we signed Carlos Delgado in 05, and we thought we'd be good, and we stunk. No one came to games. We were losing a ton of money. So we had to trade everyone. We really were getting nowhere in negotiations. So what do you do when you're getting nowhere in negotiations? You have to create leverage. Leverage is how you win any negotiation. And no matter whether you're negotiating with your wife, your husband, your kids, your business, you're buying a business, selling a business, it's just leverage. So we needed to create leverage, and we had none. So what we did is we got on an airplane and we flew to Texas, and we met with the people in San Antonio and said, listen, you guys want a baseball team? And they said, well, of course we want a baseball team. And we said, great. Do you have a store that I can buy a cowboy hat at? And I didn't intend that sentence with preposition. That was embarrassing. So he took us to a tour of San Antonio, and that was very San Antonio-like, though. We went to a cowboy hat shop, and you have to realize I'm 5'5", 118 after I shower, and Jewish. So I don't have any cowboy hats, I don't have any cowboy boots. I've been on a horse, but it was a merry-go-round. And so we went into the store. I said, can I get a hat? And they looked at me and said, you're not going to look good in a hat. I said, I don't need to look good, just get me a hat. So I got I don't remember what it was, except I think they triple charged me. I had no leverage to negotiate because I told them I wanted a hat. They knew I was going to buy a hat, and the salesperson was pretty good. I think they showed me the most expensive hat made of, I have no idea. It must have been made of gold. So I went to the game, and I sat where I knew the TV, the first base camera was. I sat there like this, and I put the cowboy hat on. And I sat watching the game like this in the cowboy hat. Next thing I know, the phone's going crazy, because how could you do this to Miami? How could you move the team? How could you wear a cowboy hat? How could you be so disloyal? And it had the exact purpose that I needed. it got things rolling. Because the worst thing in any negotiation is stagnation. And we had just lost all momentum, not that there was any real momentum. The fact is we couldn't get a deal done. We tried everything. We groveled and we went to Tallahassee, which is something I would not suggest anyone does. It was an absolute, I don't know what they do up there. I just know that you go from hallway to hallway. If you wait an hour, I just know the gavel goes down and then nothing's done. And I'm not just speaking about baseball. I see all these, I get letters all the time from bills that are going on, and then there's amendments, and there's people writing stuff, and there's aides everywhere, and there's AIDS, and there's just all these things going on. So I went to Tallahassee with Frank, I think, a couple of years in a row, and it was something I promise you I will never be in Tallahassee again. I will never run for any governmental position. I will try to get my help from here. But our negotiations started again right after I took the cowboy hat off, because we got back to Miami, and that was really the turnaround. Because in order to get to the top, you have to have a frame of reference, which means you have to bottom out. So one of the things that we do when we negotiate with players, for example, negotiating with Jose Reyes this offseason was a great example. We got to a place where we were not getting anywhere, and we walked away. You have to be willing to walk away, any negotiation, and you have to really get to the edge of a cliff and literally be falling without a net before things are going to get better. Because every deal has its own flow, its own ebb, and its own timing. And you can't create timing. We're all deal makers here. You know very well. You cannot create a deal's time. You can't say, I'm going to get this deal done by next Wednesday. It's an artificial timeline. It never works. It literally will take its own path. So Manny Diaz wouldn't talk to me. He basically started spreading the word around town that I was the plague. And it was fine, because I didn't like him either. I didn't like his attitude. I didn't like his view of me or of our team. I didn't like the way he was negotiating. He had a sidekick named Joe Ariola. Forgot about him. And we couldn't do anything. And so we let it bottom out. We pretended we were going to move. We didn't want to move. We wanted to be in Miami. Why do we want to be in Miami? Because we know for a fact we can make more money in Miami than in San Antonio. We had a stadium idea in Las Vegas. It was a brilliant plan. We went to visit Las Vegas. I really thought we had a chance to have a baseball team there, because we got to our meeting in Las Vegas, and this was around the same time we were going to San Antonio. A quick side story, if you don't mind. Walked into a meeting with the mayor. This is Mayor Oscar Goodman in Las Vegas. I kid you not. In the meeting, he walks in with 4 showgirls. I can't make it up. They're feathered out. They have feathers. They're twice my size. They sit down. What are we negotiating for? I mean, are we negotiating for them? Are we negotiating for a ballpark? What are we doing? And they just sort of sat there, and they didn't know what to say. They were hired, and they were paid by the hour, I would assume. And the mayor was sitting there, and we said, we have an idea for a ballpark. We are going to build a ballpark of all suites. We're going to sell them all to the casinos, and we're going to have them prepay all of the food and beverage, so we actually don't care if people come to the game, because we'll have all the revenue. And it's an idea that no one had ever thought of, and it would appease the casinos, who have very strong lobbying arms in Las Vegas. Casinos do not want people leaving the casinos to go to any sporting event. That's a huge deal in Vegas. So we said, just buy out the suites, buy out the seats, and don't send people. We don't really care. We'll play in front of nobody, but we'll have all the money. And Oscar Goodman sort of looked, and I think as soon as 2 of the girls fell asleep, we left the meeting. And we came back to Miami, and Manny stuck to our guns. We said we wanted something. We made it very clear from the beginning what we wanted, so we had a goal in our negotiation, and we got there. We didn't get everything we wanted by any stretch. Our contribution to that ballpark that you see is the 5th highest in all of baseball. And Jeffrey Loria, who I report to, and my contract runs out in 2015, so we better sell tickets and win games. But he said, I'm going to do this contribution in the community where we've never drawn more than 30th place, last in attendance. We're the laughing stock. No one comes to games. It's hot. It's wet. We've won World Series, which is unbelievable. We've won 2 World Series as a franchise, and yet nobody comes. And what we said to him, and he agreed, obviously, because we're here today, that we have a chance with the ballpark in Miami to relaunch an entire brand and completely start over. No other team has ever done what we're doing right now. Nobody. They've moved cities. The Nationals moved from Montreal. Baseball teams have moved. The Los Angeles Dodgers, some of us in the room may remember, not me, from Brooklyn. I'm only 44, by the way. So I'm still...
I do remember, unfortunately.
It was something, right? But why do you think he did that? Money.
Of course.
So in any case, and Los Angeles paid. Anyway, we can talk about all that. So Miami ballpark, let's start completely over. We're in the negotiation. This is a little known fact about the negotiation. One of my favorite parts is the county and the city, very good people working there, and the legal team and George Burgess. Whatever reputation George Burgess has, I'll tell you right now, he's a complete pit bull negotiator. He does negotiating tactics that he must have read online in terms of how to make people sweat and angry. He would keep me waiting for hours at a time. Then he would turn the air conditioning off. I mean, he did everything that you could think of to make it difficult. He once had me sit in a place waiting for him where there were no chairs, and I had to sit on the floor. But I did it all because I subjugated my ego to try to get a deal done. But he certainly did quite a job. And we said, let's get a deal done where we know we have to hit it right for it to work. But if it works, it's a home run. So what do we do to ensure in this sort of deal, and this is where the risk comes in, that it's either a home run, baseball pun intended, or it's literally a strikeout. And that's rare for a business to do because you're risking everything. You're risking the value of your asset, though I want to talk about why it's not a complete risk in that regard. But we're risking our business reputations, we're risking the legacy of baseball in Miami, but we have to do it this way. So we said, county and city sits down during the negotiation and says, listen, we want you to rename the team the Miami Marlins. And we said, no, we're the Florida Marlins, we're all of Florida's team, and we gesticulated a lot. We said, we really don't want to do that. And so a few sessions went by. They said, listen, this is a major part. If we're going to participate in the funding of this, you have to be the Miami Marlins. Well, if you give us this, and there was a point on CapEx or some point in a 400-page agreement, which, by the way, I'm happy to say, 33 months of construction, we have not referred to the agreement to build this ballpark one time. The city, the county, and the team together have combined to build an incredible ballpark with no overruns, not $1, without ever referring to the agreement, not one disagreement, never had to read any of the negotiated lines because we got it done and everyone did what they said they were going to do. So a few negotiating sessions later, we said, all right, we'll rename ourselves Miami Marlins. Meanwhile, that was our plan from the beginning. Because we wanted to be, isn't that great in negotiation when you want to do something and they say you pretend you don't and then you do and then you get it and then you get something else. So the reason why you've all done it in negotiation, don't pretend you haven't, and it's okay. So Miami Marlins, new uniform, new ballpark, new season ticket holders, new logo, new everything. What goes with that? Well, we can be like every other baseball team, and some businesses who you see in Miami and some around the country who they dip their toe in the investment water. They come here and they say, well, we're going to see how it goes. We're going to go at it in sort of a half-assed way. We're going to try to see if this market is what Frank Nero promised, or all the pictures really were they photoshopped, or is Miami really this way? We're going to come in and we're going to have 50 to 75 people to start, and then we'll bring some more people from Texas if it really works out well. Well, we said that's not the way to do it. We have to go all in. And the only way you can succeed to the fullest is if you're willing to risk it all. It's a complete relative financial and business model. You have to be willing to get smashed if you want to succeed. So there's a quote that no true fiasco ever started with a quest for mere adequacy. And I think about that every day of my life. Because you have to be willing to be in a true fiasco if you ever want to feel what it is to be in a true victory. And there's plenty of people and businesses that go down the middle, and those are people who really have no return on investment. They have their revenue increases at a decreasing rate. They're way behind the times. They're not willing to take chances. And I love businesses like that because it makes our business make more money. Because for everyone who's okay with mediocrity, we have a chance to blow them out of the water. Not just in the sports field, I'm talking any business, anywhere. If you're willing to take chances and you're willing to invest and you actually believe what you're doing, you have a chance. So we did a full relaunch. We went in and signed Jose Reyes. The negotiation was quite funny because we saw him at 12:01 a.m. in New York City. There's so many rules of baseball. It's a union, the worst union. I can't even tell you how difficult it is. But we couldn't talk to him until 12:01 a.m. We went to a hotel in New York, and we met with him. We said, we want you to be a Marlin. He said, I really want to play in Miami as long as you pay me $1 more than anyone else offers me. And I said, wow, that really means you want to play in Miami. He said, well, I really want to make the most money I can. I said, I respect that. I said, we'll negotiate and we'll see how we do, and hopefully you'll be a Marlin. And the negotiation dragged on, but we got him to be a Marlin. We didn't stop there. We signed Mark Burley, who is a great pitcher, an all-star. We signed Keith Bell. We traded for Carlos Zambrano, the crazy guy, who is the single nicest guy you'll ever meet when you see him around the community. When we signed him and traded for him, he was in Guatemala adopting another child. He is a family man. He's this gentle giant. Very big misperceptions about this guy. If you've never heard of him, he's this big, and he hits people and that. Well, the risk is that we're not like other businesses who can invest in R&D. Our R&D expires every 6 months. Very bizarre, isn't it? You can go to any chemical company, pharmaceutical company, they can spend years and millions and billions of dollars, forget what they write off. They can keep telling investors, listen, we're this close, we're one test away, we're going to get it. Those of you in the investment banking world know exactly how this goes. They say, listen, we are just one more little this. Our problem is we play 162 games a year. At the end of every game, every 3 hours, there's a winner and a loser. And at the end of the season, there's only one team that won the World Series. And then you have to start over. And all the players are a year older, right? And their contract is a year more expired. And you've already paid them. So our R&D really has a shelf life of 6 months, which is absolutely a horrific economic model that we have to take into account when we're deciding what we're going to do and when we're setting our budgets. But the essence of the all-in strategy is not waiting for people to come to the ballpark and then raising payroll. That's been tried in 6 other cities, and Frank can name them, and it does not work. The reason it doesn't work, in my opinion, is that it's straight mediocrity. That's telling people, trust me, we'll do it. And then if they don't do it, they've lost the trust. All of a sudden, their asset value goes down, their revenues go down, their EBITDA goes down, and basically they end up back where they were before they got into the ballpark. So to be all in, you have to do what we did. But now comes the hard part. Now we actually have to win games, and the ballpark has to perform at a level, not just on the field, but all parts of the ballpark have to perform to a level where people will return to the ballpark and recommend it to other people. That is our customer service philosophy. When you come, we want you to return and recommend. It's very simple. We only have 37,000 seats. How many people are in Miami now? Is it up to 6 million?
So Miami, 2.5 million, but the 3 county area is almost 6 million.
Okay, so we don't have room for everyone. The most we can draw is about 2.8 million. So we tell our salespeople when they call and on a sales call and are turned down, we instruct our salespeople to say thank you because we don't have room for you. Because we only can get 2.8 million people in. So we need to find 3 million, one of the top 4 in the entire Major League Baseball, which means our team will be worth more money, our TV contracts will go up, we'll get to keep signing players, you'll be on a cycle, and all of a sudden you've created this giant that will enable you to spread your tentacles out into other business interests, whether it's starting a network, which is something we're looking at doing, whether it's buying other sports teams and having them play in the ballpark, whether it's promoting concerts, which we're starting to do as well. You can do all these things, but your core business has to be baseball. It's like Burger King. They can invent every health food they want. If people don't buy Whoppers, they're out of business. McDonald's started with their salads and all their stuff to get healthy people to come. At the end of the day, you need people eating quarter pounders. We have a great relationship with Pepsi. They were all into trying to figure out how to get healthy sodas, and all of a sudden they realized, wait a minute, we better get people drinking regular Pepsi again, because that's what we are. We're a baseball team. We need to win on the field, and we need to perform everywhere, so when people come, they have a good experience, and that started last night. We had our entire staff walking around the ballpark talking to fans. We have 20 pages of items that we're going to work through as we head into opening day on April 4th. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that customers and guests and fans are having a positive experience. The entire relaunch, so far so good, but it's early. We're in the second inning of our relaunch. And it's up to this community, it's up to us. We don't ever put responsibility on fans for not coming to games. We blame ourselves. We blame the players when they lose. We blame us when people don't come. So I want to close before I take questions by talking about Frank Nero for 1 second, because he'll never talk about himself. He'll talk, but not about himself. If it weren't for Frank, I'm terribly afraid of what Miami would be like. You talk about what he does, not just in Miami, but when he travels, and the ambassador that he is. His job and what he has successfully done is helped all of us make more money. Let's get it right down to the bare bones. When he's promoting Miami and getting businesses here and talking us up, he is really helping us. And we're already here. We are an absolute tangent to what his mission statement is, yet we are the greatest beneficiaries. So I'm eternally thankful to Frank, and he's tireless, and his effort in the ballpark was really quite something, because he had a view of what a ballpark could do for Miami. It was never about me or Jeffrey Loria or Wayne Huizenga or John Henry or Manny Diaz or Carlos Alvarez or Alex Pinellas. It was always about Miami. And you need more people like Frank who focus on the big picture and don't get stuck in the weeds. So you guys are very lucky to have Frank. I appreciate that you had me here today, and I'm happy to take any questions on any subject.
Thank you, David. Question?
Miami today. How do you feel about the SEC investigation of the stadium financing?
How do I feel?
Yeah, what do you
I
think?
mean, it hurts my quads. I don't feel I'm in business. I have no feelings. So,
What do you think?
is this Michael Lewis asking, or are you? So here's the funny part about Miami Today. I mean, we can talk about Miami Today all day long. I don't read their columns anymore because I stopped, because I couldn't read Michael Lewis anymore, because it's crushing to a community to have someone who writes editorials that are really not based entirely on fact, that are based on emotion, and but they disguise themselves as fact. Be very careful of people and people who do that. It's not just Michael. It happens all over baseball. It happens all over business. It happens in every city. People with a pen have a tendency to use it as a sword when they actually don't have all the facts. And it can be very divisive for a community and for businesses, so just be careful. The SEC investigation, we're cooperating fully, and there's nothing really more I can say about it. I feel a little bit sometimes like Vincent Van Gogh, but I don't really worry about that.
Jack?
David, I know the CDT is one leg of the financing for the stadium. That's doing much better than it's current. What this good economy is doing, or going to do for repayment.
For the Marlins or for the county?
For the county.
Okay.
For those of us who put up the money.
Okay, so the CDT, now I stayed in a hotel last night, so I actually am putting up the money too. So it's true. So CDT, PSFFT, Professional Sports Franchise Facilities Tax, and then so you've got the Tourist Development Tax, Convention Development Tax, Professional Sports Franchise Facilities Tax, and all of those are trending up right now because it's all a factor of tourism, how many people are here. But again, it's been a few years only. What the county assumed was a growth rate of 3.4%. One of the biggest bones of contention in this negotiation is how unfair the county was in setting their growth rate at 3.4%. In the history of Miami, the growth rate has been 7.8, 15.2, averaging at least 8%. Now, there's some years that it goes down, and we have survived what is only the first of, my guess, 2 to 3 recessions between now and the next 50 years, but it's all part of the calculation. And we had a major mathematical disagreement because the CDT is a bucket of money. And so there's an actual bucket of money there, and then you assume growth off that bucket of money. What the county did in its negotiation is they started with a smaller dollar amount as their bucket, and so the math then compounds over 40 years, and then they say, well, we really don't have all this money. And we say to them, no, you actually have $30 million in there, not 20. If you compound the $30 million at your 3.4%, which by the way is way too low, but let's give you that it's only going to grow at 3.4, you're going to have all of this money to do the ballpark. You can put in much more money to the ballpark. You can still do a convention center. You can do all these great projects, but you have to assume you start at 30. They said, well, no, we're just going to assume 20. And the math of that, as you know, as a math person, is completely incorrect and completely insane. That said, we're completely ahead of schedule that the county is, but it's too early to tell. I wouldn't tell you that it will end up ahead or behind. The odds are very good it's ahead because the growth rate assumption was so low in the calculation that there's plenty of room for plenty more projects, which, by the way, is what the CDT bucket is for. Projects like that, museums, convention centers, all of which can get done. And that would have been a great debate to have. The debate that I always wanted to have is, do you want a ballpark? Do you want convention centers? Do you want a fixed Dolphin Stadium for Wayne Huizenga at the time? You tell us what you want to do with your money, but don't let the public convince you that, wow, that money has to be used for social services. I personally think social services are more important than conventions or arenas or ballparks, but that money can't be used for social services by charter, by law. You have to go to Tallahassee and literally change the law, which I encourage everyone to do. Every time I heard an argument, whether it was in Miami Today or any of the other papers where people were saying we want hospitals and police, I would always say the same thing. Please, go change the law, and then there's no debate anymore. But there's no debate about convention centers or sports arenas. The next debate would be, which social services do you have? So there's always going to be debate, but it's going ahead of schedule, but too early to tell.
Should also know that obviously, it bodes well for that tax, which is funding the public side on this.
But it's funding a lot of other things, everyone here knows the CDT and TDT does not just fund the ballpark. There are myriad projects that are funded, and it's all available online.
Yes, in the back of the room.
$1 of revenue you raise, you actually only capture 66 cents. And the reason that is there's revenue sharing. And that's a great debate in baseball because it's almost like you're penalized for increasing revenue. Because for every dollar of revenue you lose, you actually only lose 66 cents because you get 34 cents of it back. So that's the essence of revenue sharing. But my view is that you want to increase your revenue. We don't like getting revenue sharing. We've always been viewed, Miami, doesn't it drive you crazy, is called a small market team in a small market city. People are wrong. We were a low revenue team in a large market. And now we're hoping to be a large revenue team in a large market. But we're motivated to raise revenue, knowing that 34% of it will go to those teams less fortunate than we.
Yes, sir.
You said you touched on the recall of the mayor. What are your feelings, thoughts?
That's before I knew the Miami-Dade was here. So, I'm just kidding. It never stopped me before. And it's certainly not going to stop me now.
Well, don't hold back now.
Recalls are absolutely, it's very unfortunate that you could have a wealthy man who decides to spend his money on recalls versus actually trying to help a community. And the problem I have with recalls, it's a complete waste of money and time and effort by a community that's focused on the essence of recall, and it should be focused on a general election for that position and changing the politicians that they're unhappy with. Recalls serve two purposes. They make incumbents shake in their shoes, which causes them to make decisions on policy that are based more on what will stop a recall than what is actually good for a community. Mayor Alvarez was very open when he got his second term that he was in favor of the ballpark, and he was very open that he had a job to do when it came to property taxes and the millage rate, because he actually has to solve problems. It's very easy for people on the side who are just writing checks to throw darts and to say that everyone's doing it wrong. But I don't see Norman Brayman trying to fix anything. I see Norman Brayman telling people how bad they're doing. Well, you know what? Stand up and run for office. Let's go, Norman. If you have all this time and money, run. Let's see what it's like for you to make decisions. Let's see what it's like for you to run a budget. Let's see what it's like for you to run a company that's bigger than even Brayman Motors. Do it. Stop saying how bad everyone is and try to make a difference. So, and I think Norman's very charitable, and I think he's fine. I just have a very major philosophical difference with the way he went about doing it. And then to say that the recall votes were 90% of voters turned out or signed it. Do you know what the rate was of people who turned out to vote in the recall election? It's pathetic. There's nothing that bothers me more than a community that cries about all the ills, the community and themselves, and then they don't vote because they're too lazy or they're watching Oprah or whatever they're doing. Vote. People before us worked so hard to give us the right to vote. That is the essence of every war that's ever been fought, is democracy. Don't forget, and money, but democracy, let's say. And people sit in the background and throw cast aspersions upon elected officials and what they're doing, and then on the day it's time to vote someone else in, their hands are in their pockets. So I think the recall was unfortunate, but obviously we moved past it. Mayor Jimenez has a very hard job to do, and he's been doing very well at it.
I'm going to take some lesson. I'm going to ask you a question. You may not know, David also opines, besides of everything you've heard today, on the movies. So I was wondering what your opinion was on Academy Award nominated Moneyball as a movie, but then also as a baseball philosophy in implementing it.
Are you trying to lighten the mood here?
No, but I wanted to ask you this, and so now I'm going
No,
to
I'll talk about, listen, Moneyball is a great movie, but it's just false. So anyone who thinks that it's true, I felt badly. I saw it with a few other couples who we're friends with, and we never talk business. I don't talk about what they do, they don't talk about what I do, so we can actually have a relationship. And we see Moneyball, and they said, "Oh my God, I now get what you do for a living." I said, "Well, what do you mean? It's completely false." Did anyone see Moneyball? So it's a story of the 2002 Oakland A's and how this player named Scott Hatterberg hit this home run that was like Robert Redford in The Natural, and it hit lights and lights broke, and they clapped and they won. What's not in the movie is they had Barry Zito on that team, who won the Cy Young Award that year, and they had Miguel Tejada on that team, who won the American League MVP. So they made the playoffs with the Cy Young Award winner and the American League MVP. If you put the Cy Young Award winner and the American League MVP on any team, they'll make the playoffs. And then at the end of Moneyball, as a little up yours, I want to be the director of logarithms, statistical analysis of your second place, of your second baseman who hits sixth in the lineup. I can do that job, and I just want to get paid $20,000, and I'll do it. So I'll type back, "We don't have an opening in your area of expertise." Then I'll get a resume saying, "Listen, you need someone to analyze every one of your players, and I'm going to do it, and I'm also going to take their body fat count." I had one of those. It was like a nutritionist, psychologist, mathematical person. So all this stuff is crazy, and it's happening. People are looking for jobs, I guess, and they're making up stuff on their resumes. That was one of my favorite. Was a nutritionist, psychologist, statistical analyst. I don't know how that happens. I don't know if you do that all in one sitting. Is that 3 different hours, or do you take a fat test while examining what they're thinking about? Are they thinking about their mother when they're at the plate? I mean, what are they doing? So we don't hire any of them. We have actual scouts who watch players and say, "This guy's good, this guy's bad," and then we make them accountable and fire the scouts if they're wrong. So
I just want to point out, Moneyball was written by a guy by the name of Michael Lewis, but that's okay.
A
Different Michael Lewis. Any questions? More questions from anyone who's here? Dana.
Could you talk a little bit about the Marlins Foundation and what it does?
And he oversees that foundation and is on the board with Alfie Mesa, who some of you may know, although everyone knows Alfie Mason. I think Alfie's related to everyone in the room. And we basically we focus on baseball, arts, education, but we have charities of choice. We've done a lot of work with the Miracle League, a lot of work with Teach for America and City Year, and we just want to touch as many people as we can in as significant a way as we can. We used to be in the business of grants, and I didn't love it because I didn't love giving $500 here and $1,000 there, because I didn't feel like we could really muster all of our power to effectuate real change when you're doing it in that way. So we've been focusing on doing bigger gifts and really trying to change the way that business is done for those charitable endeavors. I'm on the board of the Miami Foundation, which is a tremendous foundation which doesn't get enough love in this community, that Javier Soto runs, and we're going through that philosophical debate right now. Do you give fewer gifts that are larger or more gifts that are smaller? And that's something that all foundations do. It's tremendously exciting what we were able to do, and it starts as low as players signing autographs for kids. We do hospital visits, and that stuff is not, we don't do it with the cameras on. We don't need cameras for that. When you see a child get an autograph from a player, it's a life changer for the child, and the players forget about it in 2 seconds. So one thing that I talk to the players about, in addition to not drinking and driving, is to please sign autographs. It takes 2 seconds. There's nothing worse, and that happened when I was a kid and I hated it. You walk to a player, "Can I have your autograph?" "No." Well, why not? Like, I'm not going to sell it. I just want to look at your name. I don't know why. It's so dumb, but I want to do it. And you know, it makes history for the kid. And our players are pretty good about it. And the foundation, I have a tier only in that we've been able, the best part about the Marlins Park is that our foundation now gets to live for another 40 years down here, and we will really do some things, and we already have. And the corporate support in this community, not just for our foundation, but for what different businesses here do, it's greater than most communities.
You want to talk about your run?
I'm going to mention one thing about money I'm raising, but I want to mention your businesses. You guys do more, and again, I travel around the country. There is more active participation by business here than in most other cities, almost every other city. And it's not that Miami has greater needs. Every city has needs, but the companies here do a great job. So I'm sort of I didn't have enough to do building the ballpark and running the baseball team. I have such great people with me. I decided I'm going to try to raise some money for charity. So I wanted to honor the workers who are building this ballpark. These workers, what a great debate we had, that we weren't going to hire local workers. Well, of course we were hiring local workers because we want them buying local tickets. So the workers who live in Oklahoma, who do their job and go home to Oklahoma, are of no use to me. We tried to hire nobody from outside of Miami because we want people to come back to the ballpark and not with a heart attack of buying tickets. So I want to honor the workers who built this ballpark. They did a great job. You can do everything in a construction project. If you've ever redone your house or your bathroom, you know that you're only as good as the people actually doing the work. And these guys took pride in their work, and we tried to help them and make it a good working atmosphere. So we're bringing them to a game on April 27th, and we're honoring the workers that day. As part of that day, we're unveiling something called the Workers' Dedication Wall. It's going to be right off the first base ramp. It will have the name of every single worker who worked on this project. His name will be up there, so they'll be able to bring their kids and grandkids and show them, their family and friends, that they actually worked on this project. So that'll be unveiled. As part of that day, I am waking up in the morning and driving to Pompano Beach, which is really north, and I'm going to start running. And I'm going to run from Pompano Beach all the way down to the new ballpark. And I'm starting about 7 in the morning, and by 6:33 p.m., either by gurney or by foot, I will enter the ballpark, and we will then do, and there'll be about 3,000 workers on the field in front of a sold-out ballpark with our game against the Diamondbacks that night. And the workers will present checks to 10 local charities of at least $50,000. So we've already raised over $500,000 as part of this run. And I encourage you to please go to Marlins.com. It's going to get a lot of attention. The Marlins are just getting a lot of attention from Miami. We're on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Showtime is filming a reality show about us, so we have cameras everywhere following us. If anyone's seen Along Came Polly, we all feel like Philip Seymour Hoffman in Along Came Polly. He had an E. True Hollywood story that he funded. Anyway, you should check out the movie. It's pretty good. So we've been raising this great money. Leon Medical and Pepsi and Fox, and there's so many great sponsors, and individuals have given so much money, and we have celebrities running with us, so we're raising money for MS, and I have someone running with me who has MS, raising money for Parkinson's, and I'm running with someone who has Parkinson's, raising money for Stand Up to Cancer and Liga Contra Cancer, and I'm doing that with a cancer survivor. Jeff Conine, who is Mr. Marlin, is running 5 miles with me. Larry Beinfest, the president of baseball operations, is running 5 miles in Broward for the Jewish Federation of Broward County. So there's 10 charities to choose from. It's the most insane thing I've ever done. I had to do a 25-mile training run 4 days ago, and I tried to do it in the afternoon, and I couldn't finish. It was too hot. So I'll finish, but it's not the smartest decision I've ever made, but we're raising a lot of money.
We'll take one more question, if there's one more here. Yes.
What advice would you give?
He will not be a ball player, and the ball players should not be their role models. So remember, what we're trying to encourage, I try to encourage kids, and this is, I'm going to take 2 minutes on this because it's a major problem, not just here, but around this country. My son is on a Little League team. There are parents of 8-year-olds who are yelling at 15-year-old umpires because they made a bad call. They're yelling at their 8-year-old kid who swung and struck out. They're going crazy. And they see me, and they want to know why I'm just sitting there saying nothing and not arguing with the umpires because they know who I am, and they want me to rush the field, I guess. And what I tell the parents on my kid's Little League team, I said, I just want to be honest. Your son is very cute, but he will never be a Major League Baseball player. And I feel terribly because you're getting him batting practice 3 days a week. He's getting fielding lessons. You're spending your hard-earned money, which I'd rather you gave to charity, because the kid is actually starting to hate baseball because he's looking at Hanley Ramirez saying, I want to be Hanley Ramirez, but he can't be Hanley Ramirez. So every Major League Baseball player was the best player on every team they were ever on by so far that people would sit at an 8-year-old Little League team game and say, oh my God, is that kid 14? And then on the 14-year-old team, how did they get a college kid? That's every Major League Baseball player. So the fact is, the kids, I love that they want to play baseball. I support Little Leagues. I love Little Leagues, but I want them to have fun. I want them to get some cardio work. I want them to get off the couch, get off the social media, get off the computer, and actually do something. But please, parents, relax. It's not going to happen. For the kids, for the players don't want to be role models because it's too much. They can't live up to it. Because people view these players as though they're deities from Greece, ancient Greece, and they're not. They're fallible human beings. They've got issues, just like we all do. So I encourage kids to have role models who are closer and touch them more often. Teachers, parents, other family members is what I tell Little Leaguers. Please use them as your role models. But on the field, take what you learn from those role models and apply it on the field, which means work hard, show up on time, and do the best you can.
Okay, David,
All right.
thank you.